Off we go, Peter. All right, grand. Hello, everybody. I'll just say a quick hello. We have Peter back here today. We have the launch of the New Scotland Party in just a few days, so we're just going to get all the information from Peter, and he will fill us all in. All right, off you go, Peter. Thanks very much.
Hi, Eddie. Hello, everybody. It's a bit rash of Eddie saying that you'll get all the information from me. You'll get all that I can remember. I'm actually really looking forward to it now. The launch event on Saturday. I've been fretting about it for a long time now, but we're at the stage now where everything's in place, except for the stuff that I've forgotten, of course. But I can imagine that everything's in place, so I don't have to fret too much. Still waiting on deliveries of a few bits and pieces, but it seems that we're all set to go. Whether anybody will turn up or not is another matter, but I'm not too troubled about that. So long as we get it done and we have it on video. It's actually supposed to be getting live streamed, but we'll see about that. And so long as we have that, then I'm quite happy. It's just that it's an important thing to have that marker that is actually started. My biggest job now is that I've got to put together some kind of speech and outline what New Scotland Party is all about in no more than 20 minutes, leaving plenty of time for taking questions. And well, that's about it. That's about all I've got to report. Unfortunately, I had been intending to head through to Glasgow immediately after the launch event to speak at the memorial event for Alex Salmond at Buchanan Steps. I'd been invited to speak there. Unfortunately, the timing just doesn't work out. It would mean me having to sprint away from the not that I do much sprinting these days, but I'd have to leave in a hurry after the event and catch a bus. And there's just too many things that can go wrong there. So I thought it advisable just to let the organisers of the Buchanan Steps event let them know that I just couldn't make it. That is just seriously unfortunate. I really would have liked to have spoken at a memorial event for Alex Salmond, because he's a man I admire greatly. He annoyed me at times. Well, he annoyed me. But he annoyed me in different ways from other politicians.
I would echo that, Peter. It's such a shame. I would have enjoyed listening to a speech you would have said.
I don't know. There might be an opportunity to do that yet. I don't know. In fact, I am toying with the idea. As I said, I have to make a speech at this event. I mean, that's basically it. Somebody will introduce me. I'll speak for 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, and the rest of the time will be left over for is set aside for a Q&A, and then everybody gets tucked into the brunch that the party's laying on for them. And that's basically it. This is about as simple and straightforward as you can be. I saw no point in trying to do a big, splashy, star-spangled event, because, again, there's too many things can go wrong with that. And besides, we're just not that kind of party. Yeah. I started to say something there already. What I started to say was that in that speech that I'll be giving at the event, I think I'll be saying something about Alex Salmond at the beginning of that, because, as you know, the New Scotland Party launch event coincides with the memorial service in Edinburgh. And I've been asked repeatedly why I've organised an event that clashes with that. Well, I haven't. excuse me, the launch event was organised before Alex Salmond so sadly died. So it was already in place. The question was whether we should postpone it or not. And I kind of thought, no, what better tribute to Alex Salmond than to go ahead with an event that is totally about the thing that loomed largest in his life. It's about his dream. And it's about realising his dream. So I thought, what better tribute? Let's just go ahead. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have wanted everything to grind to a standstill for the sake of some memorial event. So no, we're going ahead. We're doing it. We're doing things our way.
Oh, that's good to hear, Peter. I mean, I do hope you get along. I mean, like you said, because of the occasion and stuff. But it would be interesting for you to be able to get out there and speak about it, and I think it would just be good. People will get to see your face, and and I'm sure you'd mention the party in some way or whatever, and carrying on that endeavour and stuff. So it might be good for
You mean if I'd got along to Glasgow?
Yeah, and I don't mean using it as a public event to you promote or anything like that. But
No,
I just think in general it would be I think it would be pretty good. I would imagine.
I would have loved to have done it, but it's just not going to be possible. I'm really
That's a shame. A real shame.
quite upset about that. But I couldn't have the organisers of the party. It's James Scott, the Scottish Resistance, is one of the. I couldn't have them thinking that I was going to turn up and then just not showing, because I missed the bus or whatever. So it's better to let them know and commit one way or the other.
Yeah, no worries. Like you said,
I held off, Eddie. I held off long, but as time went on, there was so much more relating to this event. Things going on in the background. I just couldn't imagine myself rushing away at the end of it. There's going to be bound to be people that still want, even though we've just had a Q&A session, there's inevitably going to be people that want to talk about it. And that's the whole idea of laying on the brunch so that people can just stand around with some of the Salutation Hotel's excellent finger foods, I think they're called. I'll put that plug in so as I get the discount. Yeah, just stand around eating. And also there's another point about not doing the event in Glasgow, and it's another reason that I'm pretty sure Alex Salmond would respect, and that is that originally, before I'd been asked to do that thing at Buchanan's Steps, I'd intended that after the launch event proper was done, that we would all resort to the bar down the stairs and have a wee celebratory drink. So I wasn't going to be able to do that if I was headed to Glasgow, and I think Alex Salmond would quite approve of the wee bit of socialising after the event. I think that would have gone down well with him.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good, Peter. Can I just ask, just in case people don't know, so can you just give a bit more details about your event, where it is and stuff, just to remind people?
It's at the Salutation Hotel in Perth, in the Murray Room, and it starts at 10 a.m. It should be all over by midday, so it's not a big chunk out of your day. And basically, the room has capacity for about 50 people. We've got to make allowance just in case any journalists turn up. We'll have to reserve some seats for them. I don't expect any mainstream journalists will bother about it. I mean, they barely bother about anything outside the big parties. So but we'll reserve seats for them anyway. So there's going to be room for about 30 or 40 people maybe. I'd be quite happy if a dozen turned up. Numbers don't bother me. It's not about numbers. It's about what you're doing. It's not about numbers.
No, I totally get that from where I'm coming. We always have the same problem in most things I do. So can you just let people know? So what are your sort of short-term goals then? Say with the launch of this party
Ah,
and where you.
yes, right. That's one of the drawbacks with social media is that you post something on X or Facebook or whatever, and you tend to think that's it. It's gone out to the world. It hasn't. It's gone out to the handful of people who actually read it. Yeah, if you're a big name on social media, it'll maybe go out to hundreds of thousands or even millions of people. Otherwise, it's only going out to a few hundred at most. Somebody once calculated something I'd done got out to 500,000 people. They did some calculation on it. That was a Twitter thing. And I've had blog articles that have had over 10,000 views. So yeah, there's some numbers out there, but yeah, and I'm not too bothered about the numbers. What am I supposed to be telling you, Eddie? I'm sorry.
Just the short-term plans, you know.
Short-term goals. Well, recently I've been pushing out on social media the copies of the Manifesto for Independence. Now that has been around for must be about 5 years now. It was originally developed by myself and Jeff Bush. Jeff went off to do something different with that basic idea, but I stuck with the effort of keeping it as simple and straightforward as possible. And what it is a step-by-step plan for restoring Scotland's independence. It's the only such plan in existence. And supposing you don't like it, it doesn't matter because there isn't another one. And if somebody comes up with another one, and if it's better, then I will back down immediately. If there's a better plan, I will go for that. But that's 5 years now, and nobody has come up with anything better, and nobody's been able to poke any serious holes in it. And what the plan involves is a process that I've called Scottish UDI. Again, people say, oh, you mustn't call it UDI. But yeah, that term, there's a reason we've been conditioned to consider UDI unthinkable. And that reason is that they don't want us to think about it. And if we start thinking about it, if we defy them and actually think about it, we find that there's actually nothing all that spectacular about UDI. It's quite ordinary. Independence, we understand. Declaration, well, there has to be a declaration, otherwise nobody will know. And unilateral, well, all declarations of independence are unilateral because there's only one body that has the authority to declare independence, and that's the nation itself and the people of the nation. So, they're all unilateral. So I decided that it was better for us to take ownership of the term UDI and just get people accustomed to it. And it's now part of the everyday discourse around their politics. People don't so much throw up their hands in horror as soon as they hear the term UDI. And what this process involves is the Scottish Parliament asserting its competence, its legislative competence in the area of the Constitution. If you like, basically unreserving the reserved powers, unilaterally unreserving the reserved powers. And the reason, or the proximate reason, the immediate reason the Parliament does that, gives for doing that, is that it's so that they can facilitate the exercise by the people of Scotland of our right of self-determination, there being no other way. There is no other way that we can properly fully exercise our right of self-determination unless it's a proper constitutional referendum. And that can only be legislated for by the Scottish Parliament. The Scottish Parliament can only legislate for it if it has legislative competence. It can only acquire legislative competence by taking it. That's the way power transfers. Power is never given, power is always taken. Real power is always taken. So the Scottish Parliament asserts its competence for the purpose of facilitating the exercise by the people of Scotland of a right of self-determination. Proximate purpose, there's other reasons as well. Once you've asserted that competence, you've got it for good, and unless somebody challenges you to try and take it from you. And if the British state wants to challenge the Scottish Parliament's action, then it will be an issue which goes to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, I should say. And because it's that kind of matter, mainly because it involves a human right. The right of self-determination is defined by the UN as a human right. So in doing Scottish UDI and following that process, what we're doing is making the constitutional issue, what is an internal constitutional issue for Scotland, or from the unionist point of view for the UK, although strictly speaking it is only for Scotland, we're taking that internal issue and we're making it an issue of human rights. It's a matter determination is not being denied by the British state. It's our access to the exercise of that right which is being denied, which is being blocked. We're not being allowed. We are being prevented from and prohibited from exercising our right of self-determination. So, following the Scottish UDI process, turns the whole thing into a human rights issue. Therefore, it goes to the ICJ. And after that, there shouldn't be much of a problem, because we will then be in the position, instead of what other people are doing, going to court, taking the UK government to court and trying to prove something, instead of the UK, we have a strongly defensible position in that we are defending a human right. They, on the other hand, are going to be attacked. They will be right. So it's going to be justice. If you think what arguments they will have to use, I mean, the only arguments open to them, if they want to say that this is not allowed, it has to be stopped because it's UDI, and UDI is against the law in the UK, although the International Court of Justice says that there's nothing in UDI that breaches international law. International law takes precedence. So we move in that space outside British law, but within international law. And if the UK government wants to argue against us, wants to challenge us, they have a very limited space in which to make that argument. They could try saying that we do not actually have the right to self-determination, that we are not a nation or a people as these are defined by the UN. Well, they're on a loser there because they themselves have acknowledged the Edinburgh Agreement, acknowledged that our right of self-determination. That is not something they can just switch on and off as it pleases them. About the only alternative to that, I mean, they basically have to stand up in open court and say all the things that they don't want to say. Scotland is not a nation. Scotland is, the Scottish people are not a people. The Scottish people are not sovereign. All the things that they don't want to say, all the things that define Scotland as annexed territory, as a colony, they'd basically have to admit that Scotland is a territory, is a colony. And the alternative to that is to say that there is already a democratic means by which we can exercise our right of self-determination. By which they, of course, would mean the Section 30 process. Well, that too, they're onto a loser, because there is no way that the International Court of Justice, or the UN, is going to accept the Section 30 process as a legitimate exercise, a valid exercise of our right of self-determination. And you know, we really don't have much space to lose. We really can't lose out of this, because even if they go the first way and they start arguing that that we don't have the right of self-determination, that we're not sovereign, that then more or less instantly gets us on the UN list of non-self-governing territories. And once you're on the list of the UN list of non-self-governing territories, the UK then is obliged under international law to step back and allow us to do what we were going to do anyway. That is to have that proper constitutional referendum. They would have no choice in the matter. So this is the way to go, and that's what is set out in the Manifesto for Independence. Like I say, nobody has been able to punch any holes in that. I know it seems fairly simple and straightforward, but it's also legitimate. We hear all these long-winded, complex legal arguments, but there we are. It's on one side of about half of one side of an A4 page. Everything that is required, everything that has to be done, all the actions, independence, parties. And then we make the 2020 referendum not on independence. That won't work. I will explain why if anyone. Parliament is more popular. It's popular outside the solid core of the Yes movement. You'll get more people defending or demanding powers for the Scottish Parliament. We're almost bound to win that.
Oh, man.
Parliament could actually go ahead and assert its legislative competence over the Constitution. It could go ahead and do. That's just the cherry on the top of the cake. That's that's a good thing if we can have that mandate. Election. Don't list election a de facto referendum on independence. We can't. You cannot have a referendum of any kind, real or de facto, on something which cannot be delivered. And the Scottish Parliament cannot deliver independence. It cannot immediately, independence cannot immediately ensue from a yes vote or a virtual yes vote in that de facto. So the Scottish UDI process involves the Scottish Parliament asserting its legislative competence in all matters relating to the Constitution. So what happens if the UK government decides to challenge this? Well, as I'll explain, there's a very good possibility that the UK government will choose not to challenge it, or that their lawyers at least will advise them not to challenge it. And that is because of the arguments that they will have to mount against us. We are in a highly defensible position. We are defending a human right. We're asserting and defending a human right, the right of self-determination, defined by the UN as a human right. So that would put the UK government in the position of arguing against this right, or against us having the right, or against us having the authority to exercise that right. It puts them in a very difficult position. In fact, they would really only have two lines of argument. One is that Scotland is not a nation, the Scottish people are not a people as defined by the UN, and we are not sovereign, Westminster is sovereign, not the people of Scotland, and so on. Basically, all the things that they don't want to say, not out loud, not in public, and definitely not in a court, not before the ICJ. So they don't want to say any of that. If they do put that argument, then they're immediately defining Scotland as a colony, as a non-self-governing territory. That's virtually the definition of a colony they're providing,
which would be illegal under international law, wouldn't it?
It would. It would put Scotland on the UN list of non-self-governing territories, which is what a lot of other people are trying to do. This way, it happens automatically if the UN challenge us. And if we get on if Scotland is on the UN list of non-self-governing territories, then we are automatically entitled to our own referendum on independence, our own constitutional referendum, a proper constitutional referendum overseen by the UN. It would be under international law. The UK
and the UK interference wouldn't be allowed, would it? If I understand that's correct.
That's it. They would not be allowed to interfere. It would be nothing like the 2014 referendum, which was not a proper constitutional referendum. Which brings us neatly, and I'm going to say in a planned way, although it's just incidental, it brings us to the point of the Section 30 referendum. And the second argument that the UK could put before the ICJ against the Scottish Parliament, Scottish Government. And that is that we already have. They could argue, the UK could argue, that we already have, that there already exists a facility for us to exercise our right of self-determination, meaning, of course, the Section 30 process, at which point the judges sitting on the ICJ erupt in laughter because it's nothing like a proper constitutional referendum. The Section 30 process is actually, by my reckoning, is not legitimate in international law because it constrains the exercise of our right of self-determination. Which is not to say Alex Salmond was wrong going down that route in 2012. No. It was all that could be done at the time. It's 10 years on. We've learned a lot since then. Unfortunately, the leaders of the political parties, Scotland's own political elite, they've learned nothing. But the rest of us, we've been actually thinking about it, and we have learned a lot. Hence, we've come up with this Scottish UDI proposal. And that's it. It's a win-win. It's a win-win for us. Either the UK government chooses not to challenge because of the legal difficulties that puts them in, or if they do challenge, the very nature of their challenge wins the case for us. So there's obviously I'm oversimplifying here, and there will be lawyers throwing fits if they're listening to this. Oh, it's not easy. It never is. You ask lawyers, it's never easy. They bill by the hour, so the more difficult it is, the better it suits them. I mean, they're decent people. They're fine people for the most part, but they're not the ones to go to for answers to a constitutional question. I don't think. What the lawyers are there for is to tidy up afterwards. The constitutional question is answered by the people of Scotland. Then you invite the lawyers in and say, right, do the paperwork, we're away to have a party. That's the way it should work.
Yeah. Peter, can I just a quick point there? What one thing I'd like to reflect upon is, yeah, so I really do suspect you're right about even if we would have got a yes back in 2014, the UK probably would have said it's not legitimate.
It
Okay,
would never have happened.
it would not be legitimate, and I'm pretty sure I would guess that Salmon would have been aware of this. I'm sure to some degree. So I'm guessing the point of the whole exercise is really, to me, to get that number to see where we are. I mean, we ended up on, what was it, 44?
Well, nearly 45, we'll call
Nearly
it.
45, yeah. But so we've been always round in the middle or just over then. So at least there's that figure out there. I mean, it obviously would have been better if it was a yes, because even if it would have proved illegitimate, the people of Scotland would have spoken. I think that would have put us on a better footing. What do you think?
The fact that it could not possibly result in Scotland's independence being restored. It was just not possible. That doesn't mean it wasn't a worthwhile exercise. It was worthwhile in many ways. As you say, it got us that number. It got us the yes movement. It got us the whole of 2012, 2013, when we had one of the biggest grassroots democratic movements in history. Yeah, it was huge. It was a good thing. We might also even look back on it and say, well, it was a necessary precursor to the proper constitutional referendum. It may be reasonably argued that we had to do that first. Well, we've done it. We won't be doing it again, not if we actually want our independence restored. Any Scottish government, or especially the Scottish government, but any Scottish politician who is talking about going down the Section 30 route should be run out of town on a rail. They should be roundly rebuked, because they must know, as Alex Salmon must have known, they must know that that simply will not work. A proper constitutional referendum is binding. It is determinative and self-executing. It's the opposite of what Nicola Sturgeon said. She says she wanted a consultative and non-self-executing referendum, which cannot be a proper constitutional referendum. I've set out the criteria, suggested criteria for a proper constitutional referendum in Appendix 2 to the Stirling Directive. I really must pull them out and publish them separately so that people know what I'm talking about when I say a proper constitutional referendum. It must hit certain buttons. It must do certain things. And one of them is that there is specified action that must ensue directly from the vote, the result. If it's a yes vote, which obviously they're hoping for, it must be stated in the proposal that people are voting on. It must be stated exactly what happens next. Didn't have that in 2014. Nobody had any idea what happened next, and we had no say in what happened next. The British government decided what happened next, because it was a consultative, non-self-executing exercise. So a proper constitutional referendum, and that's the basic sense in which is different. That's the criterion that must be met. There are other criteria, but I won't start talking about them at the moment. What I will do, and I will undertake to do that right now, Eddie, is I will pull out those criteria from the appendix to the Stirling Directive and publish them separately where people can see them. I think they are already no, probably not. No, I will do that. I will do it. More work.
More work to do. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's got to the point. This is a $64,000 question. Is like, well, not just. I mean, we're going through a process, like you said. But what do you think we need to actually? Where do we need to get to where we can start, or where do we start so we can get a Scottish Parliament that will actually declare Scottish UDI, like you said, and let the UK challenge? I mean, because I mean, your argument is compelling. You know, the whole salvo thing and the international law thing. I think, like you said, Scotland has a completely defensible position
Yeah.
in this regards. And so that, like I said, the big question is like, how do we get there? So, kind of, what is your plan, or what is your idea on how you're going to push this whole idea forward?
Well, the way I approach these things is to, first of all, think, right, what would be your ideal? What is it that you really want to happen? And then you work backwards from there. You know, to what you might reasonably expect. You don't start off thinking, oh, I'll maybe be able to get this, I'll maybe be able to get that. No, you start with your ideal. That's the target. It's very, very unlikely that you're going to reach it. Nonetheless, you have to know what it is. And the ideal for me, I don't know if anybody recalls, but when the 2021 Holyrood election, I was pressing for an attempt to provide a super majority. There was lots of talk about not a super majority. There was lots of talk about a super majority. What I was pressing for was a super mandate. And that what was involved in that is very much the same as is now involved in the 2026 election. I didn't think we would get another shot at this. I didn't think we'd get another chance. We're getting it. We better grab it this time. And the idea of a super mandate, what it was aiming for in 2021, and would be aiming for something similar this time, is at that time it was mainly thinking in terms of the SNP as the party of government. And the intention was to ensure that the SNP or the party of government, whatever party it was, that they had a super mandate. A super mandate would be a working majority in the chamber. I mean, a safe majority in the chamber, and 50% plus on both ballots. Now, that actually could be done. It could be done. The SNP got very, very close to 50% on the constituency ballot in, I've forgotten now when it was, but it has been done. It has been done. So it's possible. And that's the ideal. Because if you get that, there's two things happen. One, the party of government can't wriggle out of it. There's no way they can wriggle out of it when they've been given a mandate like that. There's no way they can make excuses. I think COVID can come and go. They can't use that as an excuse. They've made a commitment. And also, it's going to be very hard for anybody to deny that mandate. See, politically, imagine the UK government, a government that's maybe been elected on something like 30% of the vote and 20% of the electorate. Imagine them saying that a vote that's over 50% on two ballots plus a significant majority of seats in the Scottish Parliament. How can they possibly turn around and say that that is not legitimate, but their mandate is? It's the Scottish Parliament that has all the democratic legitimacy. So politically, it would be very difficult, and they might even
Once again,
try.
Peter, I would see this. I would see the Scottish government as it stands, and certainly the UK government, you know, just starting that or not recognising it or whatever. But what's important, I would say, there is this: if we could have that super mandate, and get that vote, once again, if we have a majority vote for it, I think the pressure really, or it actually empowers ourselves more. We need to be aware ourselves of what we want.
So long as it's a mandate for the powers of the Scottish Parliament, a mandate for independence won't work unless and until the Scottish Parliament has legislative competence, and there is no other way for the Parliament to acquire the legislative competence other than to take it. It must be taken. So a de facto referendum on the powers of the Scottish Parliament would be good, and the super mandate would be ideal. That's what we'd be working towards. And you give people a purpose like that to press for this super mandate, and that will bring people back together again. I'm certain of that. They will have a purpose, and there will be unity of purpose, everybody working towards the same thing. Right, what if we don't get the ideal? What if we fall short? Well, the thing is, we can fall quite significantly short of that ideal and still have a mandate. All that's required, really, is a majority of the seats in the Scottish Parliament. And that we know can be achieved. That has been done before. It was done in 2015. The big difficulty now is that we have this single party syndrome, this obsession that it must be the SNP. Well, we're going to have to get by that. But at the same time, we're going to have to accept that the SNP is going to be a big part of it. The polls at the moment are forecasting that the SNP will be the biggest party after the 2026 election, as things stand. I have to append that to everything you say, because things can change. But as things stand, and it seems perfectly reasonable to expect that the SNP will be the biggest party. So we have to include that in any effort. We have to include the SNP in any effort to get the parties to adopt the Manifesto for Independence. It must be the SNP as well, because they will be the biggest party. And that would give a coalition, which is it would give the potential for a coalition, which would just have just as strong a mandate as a single party. And as I said, it wouldn't have to be 50% of the ballot on both ballots. 50% on one would be great, but you know, the high 40s on both would be enough. You know, so long as it was decisive, so long as the vote is decisive, that's enough. That's all we need. But we should aim for that ideal of the super mandate. For the two reasons that I've cited, and the first one is as important as the second. The first one is that it binds the Scottish government. There's no more wriggling out of it, and it also gives the UK government a very big headache. They denying that mandate. Yeah, it's quite possible that they try. I mean, that's the British. You know, they would actually believe, because of the sovereignty of Parliament thing, that whole doctrine holds that it actually doesn't matter how the people of Scotland vote. Westminster is sovereign. So, you know, the hell was. Westminster outvotes the whole of our nation. That's a ridiculous position that we're put in by the Union. Of Westminster, even if we got that super mandate, it's possible to imagine the British government trying to deny it. That's how bad they are. If people don't want out of a union like that, there's something very wrong with them.
I agree. I mean, well, like, once again, I think these arguments are compelling, and these have been around for years. Even your idea, or certainly the principle of your, getting a super mandate and stuff like this. But I think we spoke about this before, Peter. But it's, to me, it's always about, geez, man, we need to get this part of the general discussion, because this is the only way we're going to move forward, isn't it? Any kind of interaction with the UK government is, because they're, for want of a better word, so duplicitous. They are always going to find ways to deny us our democracy. So any kind of interaction is just going to hold us back. I totally agree with you. We need to establish ourselves as having legitimacy. And then, and we speak to the UK government as an equal terms as we possibly can.
That's it. There can be no negotiations. People talk about negotiating independence. Well, no. If we're in that situation, then we're in a situation where the sovereign people of Scotland have voted for independence. Just to put it simply, they voted to end the Union. There is no further debate to be had, and there's no negotiating about it. That is it. The moment those votes are counted, Scotland is independent, effectively. There's only the bits that the lawyers have to tidy up and the civil servants. So there's no negotiating about independence. There's negotiations about the post-independence settlement. And that's the point at which the British state becomes dangerous, because they are well practiced, hundreds of years of it. They're well practiced in getting the most out of those negotiations. They will try to keep as much as they have, as much of the control as they have. And part of that is the monarchy. Part of those ties that keep the British state holding influence in Scotland, a big part of that is the monarchy, and just the very principle of the monarchy, never mind the people that are involved, the principle of monarchy. So that is why I have now, after many years of being a relaxed Republican, I am now saying that the Scottish National sorry, I'm getting distracted by a background noise here, a truck outside. The New Scotland Party is a Republican party. I think we have to, I think you said it yourself, Eddie, we have to be as free of British influence as possible before we move into interacting with the UK government post-independence. To cut those ties, any ties they have, they will try and use them to retain a lot of the power that they have and access to Scotland's resources. That's another thing. In those negotiations, they will be looking for access to Scotland's resources. That's the big thing. And also, they would be looking for some sort of political alliance that would allow them to keep their seat on the UN Security Council. So we have to be wary of that. Our negotiators are going to have to be quite smart. But that's a bit of a worry, because there's not much sign of them. But the people who are good at negotiating aren't usually the politicians. The negotiations go on in the background. The politicians only step in for the photo op at the end, where they're signing whatever's been agreed. So we will need good negotiators, but I'm pretty sure we can come up with them.
Well, hopefully, Peter. I mean, if you know, because like we are speaking ideally here. I mean, if we imagine if we got to that position where we did declare our legitimacy, then if we did go down the UDI route, and like you said, go into negotiations, on equal terms with the UK, then that's exactly what we need to do. But of course, like you said, this is the time when this potentially could become the most dangerous time, because we could have an independent Scotland, and if people suddenly go, great, we're independent, we can get on with our lives and let our representatives get on with it, then it's like alarm bells will be flashing. Hopefully by that time, if we became an independent country, we'd have enough engagement from the people of Scotland, where hopefully we would get some good control of these negotiations, or at least a good influence, whereby we can right, and watch out for the pitfalls of negotiating with the UK government.
Yeah, there are certainly pitfalls. The thing is, those pitfalls are pretty much known. We know what they're going to try and get. What they're going to try and get is what they've got now. And so, and our negotiators will know what we're prepared to give them. Really, it's just a case of us, because we're an independent nation at this point, remember. It's just a case of us saying, right, this is what we're prepared to give you. Like, we'll give you, take Fast Lane, for example. There's no way that we can just evict them. I mean, that's a nuclear facility. And if we just try to evict them, they'll start citing safety concerns. Oh, it's not safe, it's not safe. And that would be quite legitimate. It would be a very powerful argument. So what we need to do is give them notice of eviction. Perhaps say, let's just off the top of my head, say, right, we'll give you a 5-year lease at a ramping charge. And by ramping, I mean it increases by 50%. No, the hell with it. It doubles every year. And it starts at £1 billion. So it's £1 billion for the first year, 2 billion for the second year, 4 billion for the third year, 8 billion for the fourth year, and 16 billion for the fifth year. Now, there's a good incentive for them to get a move on. And it's not us that's pressuring them. We're not trying to push them out. They're trying to get out just to save money. So if they cause any safety problems while doing that, that's on them. It's not on us because we're chucking them out. It's on them because they're trying to save money. That is just one of the countless things. I recall, and I must try and find this. There was a thing in I caught in a newspaper or something round about 1996, 98, somewhere about then. And it was a little item about the final negotiations with the Irish Republic. That was in the 1990s. They actually finished the post-Irish independence negotiations. This is the lawyers and the civil servants in the background working away for 50 years, whatever, on getting this finalised. And they got the final agreement on the final little detail after all that time. But, Ireland was independent all that time. It wasn't. There was no question that it was not independent just because there were still these details to sort out. Yeah, a lot of it will be done post-independence. The important things will have to be done quickly. There's other things that can wait 50 years if necessary.
Yeah, fair point. I totally get that. Okay. Sorry there, Peter.
Right.
Okay. Right, Peter, if you go through all the details about the launch again, once again, let people know. Let people how they can get involved. I know like you've got a Facebook page and stuff like that, but would you be able to give us a little bit more detail for people watching if they want to get involved?
Right. At the moment, there's only the Facebook group. It's a group. It's a private group. There's a few questions you have to ask to join it. That's been getting a steady stream of people. It's been quite interesting the way that's developed. Even since we made it private, it's quite promising. And my blog, of course, peterabell.scot. You'll get a lot of information there. And there's the usual Twitter, X, there's information there. We do have, we do have a temporary website, but one of the things that I'll be announcing on Saturday is the launch of our proper website on the following Monday. And at that same time, we will start to take sign-ups for membership. We haven't been taking members up until now because I didn't want people simply jumping ship the way people jumped from the SNP to ALPA. And then afterwards, a lot of them regretted it. They were given cause to regret it. I didn't want people doing that. I wanted to spend a month, 2 months, 3 months just talking about it so that people were at least partially aware of what they were getting into. And so we'll open up membership on Monday as well. What ensues after that, the launch event, I can't really say, because right now I'm like the emperor of New Scotland Party. I'm the sole director of New Scotland Party Limited, which is the legal entity. I'm therefore the de facto leader and treasurer and secretary of the party and president. I like the president, but yeah, I am everything, and obviously that cannot continue. But it's a good way to start because there's been a working group helping me with this, although they'll be the first to tell you that most of it was on me. There was things that I had to do because this is my baby. But obviously that can't continue. And my aim personally is to step away from this. As soon as we have enough members, so after the launch event, there'll be, from the point of view of members, there won't be much happening, or not much that's visible. We might elect some office bearers, but most things will have to wait until we have a sufficient membership so that we can man or woman or person all the various positions that are required, and so that there's the right people to put into the right jobs, so that there will be, it depends how quickly the membership grows, but it might be a few months, it might be 2 or 3 months. It can't be much more than that because we have to get ourselves sorted out by next summer, well, next spring really, in order to be in a position to talk about the 2026 election. Another thing that people ask is, yeah, well, why a political party? Why not just a campaign organisation? And I would have agreed that with them up until fairly recently, but these ideas, what I'm calling the new thinking on the constitutional issue, that doesn't exist in the sphere of party politics at the moment. It simply isn't there. Our political elite, they're enclosed in this little bubble, and none of the thinking that has taken place outside that bubble over the last 10 years, what was it Alf Baird called them, the intelligent wing of the independence movement, something like that. There's been a lot of thinking going on, and all that new thinking just hasn't penetrated the political sphere. So even just being a political party, even if we're not big, we are still a political party. So we're actually getting a foot into that party political sphere where previously it didn't exist. Now, if we get enough supporters and enough members, then we will be a significant part of it. But the thing is, we'll be able to behave and act as a political party. At some point, we will publish a manifesto, a fuller manifesto. At some point, we will publish a party constitution. We will be a political party. We are a political party now, although we don't have we're not registered with the Electoral Commission as yet. That process is still in train. That was always going to take a long time because the party is, we're aiming to make it, I'm aiming to make it totally different from existing parties, which have disappointed everybody. And that means that the constitution, the party constitution, has to be different. And that means it's all got to be done from scratch. There's no existing model, no existing template that it can build on. So I'm still working on that in the background while working other things. But I realised fairly late on that the electoral registration was not a priority. The Electoral Commission registration is not a priority because we are not proposing at the moment, as things stand, we're not proposing to stand any candidates in the 2026 election. So we do not need that registration. We will still be going for it. We will still be seeking it because we still want the option of standing candidates in the 2026 election. That will depend on how things pan out. That'll be a decision that will be made by the party. That's not a decision for me to make now. The party will make that decision. I will have one vote, the same as everybody else. So that's what happens after the launch event. The easy answer to that is not very much. Not very much from the outside appearances anyway. There'll be a lot happening internally. And I'll still be doing things like this. I'll still be talking about our aims and our positions all of that time. And I will still be pressing for people to join in this campaign to force the parties, their own parties, all parties, to adopt the Manifesto for Independence. Forget about this unity thing in the sense of amalgamating all the parties. That is never going to happen. Even if it did happen, it wouldn't last. It would fall apart in the heat of an election campaign. What we should do instead, what we must do instead, is have all the pro-independence, nominally pro-independence parties adopt the same manifesto commitment so that every vote for every one of those parties and any one of those parties all counts as a vote for that manifesto commitment. That way, it's all but inevitable that we will get a majority vote for that manifesto. I say all but certain. Something very strange would have to happen for it not to be a majority, because I think people are going to be attracted. People are already being attracted by this idea. People who have actually taken the trouble to read the stuff that's been published, they've actually been interested. The people who've seen the Manifesto for Independence are humming and hawing about it. They're saying, yeah, you can see the sense of that. So I really can't see it failing. It's something to G up the campaign again, and goodness knows we need that. So that'll be the launch event is at the Salutation Hotel in Perth, the Murray Room upstairs, and it starts at 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 30th of November, St Andrew's Day.
And the food is great.
The food, I believe, is excellent. There's mini pies or something that they do that I've heard people raving about. I've got to be careful. People will be coming along just for the food, and they'll not be listening to me. Can't help that. Can't help that.
Well,
But anybody's welcome. As I say, there's capacity for 50, and if we're over capacity, they'll start shouting health and safety, and some people might have to be asked to, the last to arrive might have to accept that they can't get in. I don't see it being that busy. I honestly don't. I don't see that being a problem. but we'll deal with it if it is. I'd originally thought we'd do it by invitation, but then I had the problem of thinking about, or the working group had the problem of trying to think who we should invite, and more importantly, who we shouldn't invite. So I thought, oh no, if we go down that road, we're making a stick to break our own backs with that. And there's bound to be people, oh, why was I not invited? So it's first come, first served, with priority being given to the media, and I think people will understand that.
No worries. Well, I'll just quickly finish by saying, well, I commend what you're doing, Peter. I commend lots of people when they get up and they actually do stuff. I mean, because like you said, we do at the same time. I like everybody doing their own stuff and being local and all the rest of it. But like you said, we do need to find some unity to try and get that flavor of 2014 back. I think it's a lot.
Unity of purpose.
Yeah, unity of purpose. Yeah, I think it's.
I have to stress that. Sorry to butt in, but that has to be stressed. And I'm a bit dubious about that spirit of 2014 thing as well.
A flavour. I meant a flavour, because I mean those days are past. But like we said, well, I mean they're part of the process now, not even hypothetically, because whatever happens, they have now been, that referendum was part of the process. And of course, not long after that and stuff, well, even before that and after that, if you mentioned UDI to most people, they would run a mile. But, as time's gone on, slowly but surely, and with the advent of your party and stuff and your whole idea, I, for one, and I'm sure there's lots of other people out there, the idea is the discussion about UDI will grow. And I just hope that it grows, to get that critical mass,
It actually happened faster than I expected. That UDI entered the language, the discourse around, and now the same thing is happening with the idea of colony. So there's been a big change. There's been a big change everywhere except among the political elite. So let's get into them.
Exactly, Peter. I think we can leave it there because that's exactly what we need to do. We will be heard.
That was the finishing note there, Eddie.
Okay, well, Peter, before we go then, so is it okay then? We'll catch up again soon because I mean, just even just for the point of it would be great to hear your feedback as time goes on and stuff, and see where we are, having a discourse about UDI and the Manifesto for Independence. It's very, very important. And once again, thank you very much for all your efforts, Peter.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, Eddie. And I'm always happy to come on and talk about it.
Brilliant.
Never have a problem with that.
Brilliant.